All right. I think I have hope. I think I have, whoops. Now, I think I have my sound issues fixed. Somebody leave a comment for me and let me know if my sound is good. Gone long, as you can probably tell. I thought about staying longer, but then, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to broadcast tonight. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and cook while the iron's hot, so to speak. This is my first layer of white. That's assuming I'll do more than one layer, which is usually the case. And I'm painting white into wet. Now, for a long time, when doing my technique of painting, I used to wait. I used to wait until all of that was dry before I started my white stuff. And then, as I like to say, I just matured a little bit. Something chunked into place in my mind. I went, wait a minute. When I paint into wet paint, I get to create more interesting marks. I get to create little bits of where the white that I'm putting down mixes with the color that's already there, right? I keep thinking, here's a similar related subject, and some of you might be able to relate to this. I've thought often, given my philosophical proclivities for interesting marks, given that, it seems to me I should prefer to paint with dirty paint on my brushes. Now, I don't know if you know what I mean by dirty paint. What I mean by that is, it's easier to describe the opposite. I like, when I'm mixing paint on my brushes, of course I do most of my mixing right on my brushes, I like to mix until they're thoroughly mixed and I know exactly what color is there on the brush, right? That's what I mean. That's clean paint. It's clean paint on my brushes. But given all of my talking about how much I value texture, variety, interesting marks, chaos, energy, and so forth, it seems to me, if that's the case, that I really ought to prefer painting with dirty paint. And in fact, my guess is that as the years go by, maybe months go by, that I will actually move in that direction. I'm sort of talking myself into it, even as I talk to you about it. I was, some time ago, several months ago, I'm sure now, I just was watching as I do often, a painter on YouTube. And this was a very famous painter, name is C.W. Mundy. Very, very, very well-known, highly respected painter, C.W. Mundy. And I was watching him paint, and doggone did he paint with dirty paint on his, well, he only painted with one brush, like most people. He should use two brushes. He'd be better if he did, but it's like the ultimate in something sacrilege to say that, for me to counsel C.W. Mundy. That's right, I'm going to stick with it. He paints really well. He'd paint better if he used two hands. Anyway, you don't know him, so you don't know what hubris it is for me to say that. Anyway, he painted with very, like he wouldn't mix up his paint on his palette very thoroughly at all. So to be a mess of paint, a mess of colors on his brush, and he slapped the paint down that way. I did make that mental note. So maybe I'll try it later today. Anyway, for me, even just doing this, painting white paint into wet paint, if I always get that wrong, painting white into wet is sort of a daring move for me. At least it was when I started. It's not daring anymore. Gotten quite accustomed to it. Maybe that's how we grow as artists. You cross one frontier into uncharted territory that takes courage and takes guts. Another way of saying takes courage, of course. I'm sure you appreciate me defining that for you. And then you get used to it. Then you tame that particular wild beast, and then you move on to tame another one. Maybe that's a description of good painting. I will say it's a pretty good description of the way I've proceeded and progressed as an artist, as a painter in particular. I'll try one crazy thing and then discover, well, that didn't kill me. Let me try another one. So at least that's generally been my trajectory, I think. Always trying new stuff. I have not seen the bride here today at all, so I don't know how tall she is. I don't know what color she is. I wish I even knew just the tiniest bit about her, because I want to begin blocking in some human shapes here. I certainly have in the past. I don't always wait till I see the bride. I just take a wild hope, and because I want to get something going here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do something right now. Man, I got so much nice drawing right there. Is that bride, or can I put them over here? Ooh, you know what? I mean, dead center is traditionally not a good composition. Right? You know that, right? Can I move them over this far? Then there'd be kind of a counter to the fireplace. Fireplace there. You know what? I think I can. So forgive me. Sorry, Mr. Pot there, that I spent some time drawing in. There's a bride, and here's a groom. I have no idea which one's taller, so I dare not go any more than that, but that was a big decision, and I feel pretty good about it. You can see, if you watched my first broadcast this afternoon, during the brief time that you were gone, I did glazes, and as you can see, blue up here and orange down here, basically. Some dirty orange, dirty blue and dirty orange. Being careful while I was doing those glazes, being very careful to make them pretty messy, pretty non-definitive, right? Letting there be breaks, holes in the glaze, using a glaze, at least in my world, in my mind, is sort of smooth like glass, not much texture. But I've discovered that, oh wait, while I'm making these glazes, I can also be increasing the interest on the canvas, in the painting, by making sure the glazes themselves have variation to them. So I've gotten better at doing those glazes, letting them remain messier. Now all of this stuff up here is just vines. I haven't turned you around in this broadcast yet, so let me do that right now. This is going to be a really short broadcast too, by the way. So see, there's the ceiling, rafters and vines and lights, and here's some of the lattice work. Ignore the fan. I'm going to not paint the fan. And there's a fireplace with a mirror in the front of it. I think you could tell that. And again, so that's what I'm painting basically. Now, having said all that I did a while ago about painting white into wet, let me follow up by saying the reverse, at least at this stage in my painting evolution, the reverse is not true. That is, can I go ahead and paint colored glaze on top of this white? And the answer for me is an emphatic no, because if I put the white's wet, and if I put color on top of this, it'll just pick up the white, make it disappear, and then turn it into an opaque pastel. Not a pleasant, I like all this texture. Anyway, so I have to take a break here, and allow all this white to dry. The next thing I'll probably do, unless the bride and groom get here, then I've still got an hour before they show up. So I'll just keep painting the background. I like it so far. It's got quite a bit darker, more twilighty. But this is, again, typical of my approach. I don't go all the way to dark. I tiptoe my way up. Again, just in case, especially if you're a new watcher of mine, traditional oil acrylic painting is darks first, lights last. And I actually adhere to that quite strenuously, even though some of you are saying, well, no, that's not dark. Okay, here's the exception, or here's the caveat. In fact, a Kevin McPherson type traditional oil painter will block in his painting by putting in the darks first. That's the first thing he does. I'm doing the same thing, except that I don't put down a very dark. I put down light and build up to the dark. So in other words, I take that, what he does in one step with a number 7, 8, 9 dark color, I break that down into several steps of building up layers of color. So it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. But it's the same philosophy, darks first, lights last. I adhere to that pretty strenuously, even though, again, to the untrained eye, it doesn't look like that's what I'm doing. Okay. Break time. I'll be back in a little while. Sorry, YouTube, about the copyrighted music that's being played. I'll get a letter. Trust me, I'll get a letter. But hopefully they'll say I'm not in too much trouble. Okay, thanks, bye. Oh, so I did use, Wisconsin Greg, I did use the same. No, I usually use different. Very good question, Greg. I usually try to make a point to have a different size brush in each hand. Very good question, because each brush makes different marks, right? So adds to the variety of marks. Thanks. Talk to you soon. I'll be back in a little while.